Well, hello, and welcome to this week's episode where I'm going to be talking about a topic that is not talked about enough, which is mom guilt. Do you have mom guilt? If you're a mom, the answer is yes. If you have a mother, the answer is yes. So there you go. If you're a woman, for men too, but women really get the mom guilt brunt of it. And so much of that has to do with not being able to draw boundaries. So I have a gift for you. At the end of this episode, you're going to be able to download a guilt-free boundary guided meditation that I made for you. Because the more you are capable of drawing healthy boundaries in your life, the less mom or any other kind of guilt you will have. So our boundary bootcamp season continues, talking about mom guilt and boundaries. So let's start with, why is this so? Well, we idealize in this society the image of the all-sacrificing mother. Right? I have an image of the mother gladly giving up the last Twizzler in the pack to her child, even if she really wanted it. Self-sacrifice goes hand in hand, perception-wise, right, optically, with being a good mother. Now, there's so many other reasons. If you have young children, if you've had children, you can feel guilty if you're breastfeeding and your child doesn't latch. You can feel guilty if your child has allergies, somehow like you did something or didn't do something. And then you can make normal human mistakes, like perhaps going out to the playground and not bringing the SPF or a hat. Like you're an actual human, but there seems to be no room for that in society. This expectation, as things changed from the more traditional way that it was, right? So mothers in the 50s, let's say for 30s, 40s, 50s, staying at home with children, not really working. Women going into the workforce was more like 60s and 70s, where it was looked down upon. You ever watch Mad Men? Whoa, like who would want to be in that culture? But there's a reality that it was super male dominated. So it's almost like in making room for women to actually have careers as well, the society upped the ante so that you have to be perfect. You have to do everything. You have to be on the PTO. You have to be a class mom on top of working if you have a career, on top of never getting anything wrong, on top of never losing your temper, on top of being perfect while you're completely sleep deprived when kids are little. And I feel like, especially if you have the disease to please, or if you're a codependent to begin with, being a mom really, really taps into that already overdeveloped desire or need to give of yourself and to put your own needs, wants, and desires last. So where do boundaries come into this picture? Having weak boundaries, feeling like you must do all of these things, is an indication of weak boundaries. Now, there's a fine line. So I'm not saying become selfish, don't be a good parent. That isn't obviously what I mean. It's more about how can you find some balance? How can you be a good parent, a good mother, and take good care of yourself? Because in the end, when you don't take good care of yourself, how do you feel? Think about it right now. How do you feel? You feel resentful. You feel exhausted. You feel pissed at your husband. You feel pissed at everyone, right? You also have the problem of compare and despair. Do you ever look at your friends and you're like, wow, their lives are so perfect. They're so great. So let's talk about a couple of tips just that I want you to keep in mind. The first is that Instagram is fake, right? Any profile you see in Marie Claire or whatever magazine, you're seeing people, they have like the Mother's Day profile, like celebrities and their children, that make it look like they are perfect parents. They live in a perfectly clean, gorgeous home, mansion. They're on the beach frolicking. What you don't see is the team of people who make that happen. What you don't see are the nannies and the au pairs, right? So you've got to be really clear about what is real and what is fake. So do not compare and despair yourself to anyone. All you can do is be the best parent that you can be. One of the things that we do is we look at the things that our parents did that we didn't like or that we thought were incorrect or were hurtful or harmful, and we do our best not to do them. And my mother's advice about that, when I inherited children and I went from, I had no terrible twos, I just went barreling headfirst into the terrifying teens with inheriting 3 young teenage boys. She said, "Don't worry, Terri, you won't make my mistakes. You'll make all of your own." Why, thanks, Mom. And wow, isn't that true? Because you know what there isn't? There's not a manual around parenting. There really isn't. There's lots of books. But the truth is, you're kind of left to your own devices to figure it out. If you are a high-functioning codependent, like I know so many of you are, this really can put you in that double bind of being damned if you do and damned if you don't. Because guilt is this very low vibration, and if you experience it a lot, you know. It is such a bummer. And I think that a lot of people don't draw boundaries, A, because they don't know how or don't have the language, but B, because it produces guilt. If you are not being the all-giving, all-earth mama-like mother, whether you have kids or not, whether you're not, giving yourself away, if you draw that boundary, you can feel that regret, that instant sense that the other person is disappointed and how bad that feels. And a lot of times it makes us want to go back and take it back, which of course is sabotaging your own mental health and freedom, because you have to think about the thing with boundaries is that when you really learn to do it, you'll be uncomfortable for a little bit, right? There's a moment, and then you have to work to not undo the progress. But then there's expansion. If you say no to being the class mom this year, although you did it last year, there's expansion. And I understand the saying yes as well, especially if you have more than one child and you want to be fair. And if you did it for one, you feel like you should do it for the other. But you're also allowed to be in a different time in your life and make different choices. So our first tip is that Instagram is bullshit, and that, this profiles on celebrities and their perfect children and their perfect lives is also fabricated and made up. You need a mantra. So you need a mom mantra. When you know you need to say no to something, you've got to remind yourself, boundaries are healthy. I have the right to say no. And the real mantra has to be that boundaries actually protect the relationships I hold dearest. They protect all of your relationships. But I find that the people you're closest to, the people you want to disappoint the least, are the ones that it can be very difficult or very challenging to draw boundaries with. And if you can just rock that mantra, right? Boundaries actually protect my relationships instead of endangering them, right? Because this goes to all of the boundary myths. If I draw boundaries, people will think I'm a bitch. If I draw boundaries, I have to do it and be mean, which is completely untrue. The next thought I have for you is that it is your job to know your limits. When you burn the candle at both ends for too long, you really aren't good for anyone. You're not. Because you know that resentment, that constriction that you feel, it has to come out. It won't just disappear. So you really have to look down the line and down the road, like look to the future, because I know you've had this experience before, doing too much, going too long. And if you're a real high-functioning codependent, you'll turn it in, right? Maybe you'll get an autoimmune disorder. Maybe you'll get sick. I don't know. But I do know that we have a somatic response, right? Our bodies will manifest something if we don't stop. It's a way that your body forces you to stop. It's a lot of what Louise Hay's work is all about, right? So Louise says, she's got a book, You Can Heal Your Life. And if you go into that book, there's a whole index that tells you, thyroid cancer could be, it's the fifth chakra, and it could mean, difficulty, either unexpressed grief or difficulty in speaking truthfully, right? The next tip to think about is being realistic about how you set boundaries. If you have a boundary myth in your mind that it means you have to be mean, it's not true. You can set boundaries with kindness, with compassion, and with love. You can set boundaries and make sure you do it with a positive statement first. I really appreciate you always thinking of us and inviting us, and I'm going to need to decline this time. And if you want to add context, not to convince and not to justify that you're not going, but if it's a close friend or someone that I care about, sometimes I do want to provide context, especially if I really want to do the thing. Vic already booked us tickets for something, so I can't make it on that day, or I'm working, whatever it may be. You don't have to. But the real point is that drawing boundaries does not have to be a caustic and confronting and horrifying experience. It can actually be easy, right? It can be easy. It can flow. And I think that holding yourself up to this unrealistic dynamic of perfectionism, right? And so many women, especially, who have the disease to please, who are high-functioning codependents, also really suffer from perfectionism. And this really is an ailment because it absolutely sucks the joy out of your life. And there's a whole theory, I can't remember who created it, but I will write it in the blog, I'll find it. It's about good enough mothering. And it was a whole study about the resiliency of children, and that mothers didn't have to be perfect for children to thrive. They just needed to be good enough. And the most important thing for kids to thrive is to know that they are loved, right? And I'm positive that all of you love your children. So just take solace in that. And this is a study that was done, I think it was done in the 70s, a really long time ago, and it still holds true today. So, and it's not just with children, you guys. I mean, I'm talking about mom guilt in this specifically, but if you have a lot of mom guilt, you probably have guilt about not being everything for everyone in other areas of your life, whether it's your spouse, whether it's a close group of friends, whether it's an aging parent. Because this is another area where we do feel like we have to be super women because we're good girls, so to speak, right? So many of you who are attracted to my work are good, nice people. We want to do the right thing, but you've got to be realistic about what you can do, right? Knowing your limits, it's such an important thing, and realizing you don't have to overfunction to this degree to be loving. And actually, it's the most loving thing that you can do to learn how to draw clear, concise, transparent boundaries. Because the truth is, when you're not drawing boundaries, you're really denying the people in your life the opportunity to deeply know you. And how can anyone authentically love you if you don't allow them to authentically know you? So you're not just robbing yourself of that experience, you're robbing the people in your life as well. So, yes, Boundary Bootcamp season is in full swing and going on and on. I hope that you liked this episode. If you did, please share it on your social media platforms. And super exciting, sign up for Big Beautiful Boundary Challenge is on. So when you download the your free guided meditation, you'll also have an opportunity to sign up for the challenge, which is September 10th to the 14th. And then there's a masterclass on the 14th and another masterclass the next week. Lots of live streams in between. And I will be diving more deeply on this topic this week for our Wednesday Wisdom session, which is 3 p.m. on Wednesdays. And you can catch that live in the Real Love Revolution female only Facebook group, or open to everyone on my business page, which is Terri Cole, LCSW on Facebook. Whew! Well, that was a lot. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday Wisdom. Have an amazing week. And as always, take care of you.